the mob boss who handed his castmates checks for 33 grand, the machete-wielding villain who crawled into a flipped car to save a baby, the coldest, scariest faces in Hollywood, and what they did when the cameras were off. Because the meanest character on screen is almost never the person underneath. We're matching reputation to reality, and it builds to 3 stories that will level you. Stay to the end. Start with Johnny Depp, tabloid chaos, eccentric, unpredictable. In 2009, he keeps a Chicago steakhouse staff working until 2:30 in the morning, ordering $500 bottles of wine. On a $4,400 bill, he leaves $4,000 to cover the hours he cost them. His waiter called him the finest, most respectful star he'd ever served. And it wasn't a one-off. David Beckham, the untouchable, manicured global brand. On a freezing London morning, a cycle paramedic is crouched on the pavement treating an elderly man who fell, both of them waiting in the cold for an ambulance. Beckham walks past, says hello, gets in a car. 10 minutes later, he's back on foot. A hot coffee for the paramedic, a tea for the patient. The ambulance service posted the photo, calling it the opposite of the abuse their crews usually get. And Gordon Ramsay, whose entire brand is screaming at people in kitchens, filming at a failing hotel, he's disgusted by everything except one humble prep cook named Scooter. Real passion, nothing to work with. Ramsay drops the act completely and offers to put him through culinary college out of his own pocket.
I want to finance those next 4 years in college personally and help you, okay? Do it for you and keep that dream alive one day of owning your bakery.
Years later, the family confirmed it. He paid for 2 full years. No screaming, just a hand up. Now the ones who turned on their own sets. Hugh Jackman, on screen, the snarling Wolverine. Embarrassed early on that he didn't know his crew's names, he started a tradition. Every Friday, he buys thousands of dollars of scratch cards and hands one to everyone on set.
Yeah, I did on Fridays. It's what we do in Australia to make sure the crew stay after lunch. Kidding.
He's kept it up for 20 years, using the handoff to learn every name, erasing the line between the A-lister and the people building the film. James Gandolfini was Tony Soprano, menacing, ruthless, terrifying. After a bruising contract fight, he lands a $13 million deal, knowing his holdout had scared his castmates, who needed the work. So he calls 16 of them into his trailer one by one and hands each a personal check for $33,000. "Thanks for sticking by me," he says. A castmate called it like buying 16 people a car. Keanu Reeves does the same for the people who take his hits. After the brutal burly brawl on The Matrix, he buys custom Harleys for all 12 stunt doubles and quietly slips a struggling set builder a $20,000 Christmas bonus. And Viggo Mortensen, after Lord of the Rings, learns a stunt double fell for the white horse she rode but can't afford it, so he secretly buys it and gives it to her. They treat the people taking the real physical risks not as hired hands, but as the reason the movie exists. "He just did it because he understood," the stunt double said. Then the ones who give on condition, nobody finds out. Russell Crowe, famous for his temper, quietly funds rebuilding a firebombed Montreal Jewish school's library. Years later, a tiny English bookshop crowdfunding to survive wakes up to a £5,000 gift signed Russell Ira Crowe. The owner's family literally chanted his name in disbelief. He even covered the vet bill for a disabled pet bird named, of course, Russell Crowe. Untouchable deity, the purple secret, Prince. Prince gave with almost religious secrecy. He hears activist Van Jones on the news talking about green jobs in poor neighborhoods, and a $50,000 check just appears. Jones, suspicious it's a setup, keeps sending it back. Finally, a rep calls. "Just accept it. I won't say who it's from, but his favorite color is purple." There are families in Oakland with solar panels on their roofs right now who never knew Prince paid for them. George Michael did it constantly. Saw a game show contestant say she needed £15,000 for IVF and quietly paid it. Tipped a crying student nurse $5 grand. And Steve Albini, the abrasive punk producer, spent 2 decades intercepting kids' letters to Santa from Chicago's poorest families and driving a van of cash and toys to their doors on Christmas morning. Both men spent years making sure the people they helped never felt watched. Most of it only came out after they were gone. Some stepped straight into danger for strangers. Before she was famous, Octavia Spencer's beat-up car dies in a busy Beverly Hills intersection. Everyone honks and swerves until a man on a motorcycle stops, tells her to steer, and pushes the car to safety himself. It was Keanu Reeves.
With his sunglasses and motorcycle helmet, and I knew immediately it was Keanu Reeves. I thought he was going to get into the car. I got behind the car to push. He said, "No, I'm going to push you out of the street. You get in."
And at a golf event, an 83-year-old Clint Eastwood spots a man choking across the room and hoists all 200 pounds of him off the floor until the Heimlich works.
I could see that I was choking, and he just grabbed my arm, turned me around, and performed the Heimlich on me and saved my life.
Spencer's gone to every Keanu movie on opening weekend since, and the man Eastwood saved still can't believe Dirty Harry threw him in the air to keep him alive. Danny Trejo has played every machete-wielding villain you can name. In 2019, he watches a car flip at an LA intersection, and while other drivers go around it, he runs toward the wreck. Trapped inside, upside down, are a special needs boy and his injured grandmother. Trejo crawls in and keeps the terrified kid out of shock the only way he can, yelling "superpowers" and flexing with him until firefighters free the grandmother.
What we saw was a lady ran a red light, crashed into that little Explorer, flipped it over. There was a baby inside and a grandma.
"The Lord put me right there," he said. Tom Cruise, controlled, managed, controversial, sees a 1996 hit and run, pulls over, and follows the ambulance to the hospital. Learning the woman is uninsured and ruined, he quietly pays her $7,000 ER bill. And the famously grumpy Harrison Ford spent years flying his own helicopter for Wyoming search and rescue, pulling a dehydrated hiker off an 11,000-foot peak and finding a 13-year-old scout lost overnight in Yellowstone. The hiker was so sick she threw up in the helicopter, with no idea until days later that Indiana Jones had just saved her life. And two of Hollywood's wildest reputations turned out to be the most loyal. Before The Hangover, Zach Galifianakis befriended Mimi, an unhoused woman who slept in his laundromat. And once he was rich, he came back, rented her an apartment, paid her rent for life, and brought her to his premieres. Colin Farrell, deep in his bad boy years, befriended an unhoused man in Toronto and tracked him down years later for a clothing spree and a year of rent. Mimi lived secure to 96, and the man Farrell helped said the actor sat down, offered him a cigarette, and treated him like a regular human being. Some just refused to act like stars. Bill Murray, 56, gets invited to a cramped student house party in Scotland, and instead of slipping off to a hotel, he washes the whole pile of dirty dishes at the sink. Dave Grohl, in a brutal 2023 storm, hauled his own smoker to an LA homeless shelter and stood in freezing rain for 16 hours straight, cooking for 500 people with zero press. No cameras invited, no announcement. Just a multi-millionaire scrubbing pots and a rock god soaked to the bone serving plates. But the quietest one might be the heaviest. Before acting, Steve Buscemi was a New York City firefighter. The day after 9/11, he didn't call a publicist. He went back to his old firehouse. He worked 12-hour shifts for 5 straight days, digging through the rubble for survivors, in a surgical mask so no one would recognize him, turning away every photographer. "It was a privilege to be able to do it," he said years later. Now the ones that hurt. Eminem, all rage and controversy on the mic. In 2015, a 17-year-old named Gage with terminal bone cancer is given a week to live, and his one wish is to meet him. No press, no cameras. Eminem just drives to the kid's house on a Sunday night. He sits in the living room for over an hour, just talking hip-hop and football. A charity worker said Gage sat up grinning in a way his family hadn't seen in months. He passed away the next evening, his wish granted. Christian Bale, intense, brooding, that infamous on-set blow-up. In 2012, a 4-year-old with terminal leukemia, Jaden, wishes to meet Batman. Bale doesn't send a video. He flies the whole family to LA, puts them up for a week, and hosts a private lunch, spending the afternoon listening to a 4-year-old like an old friend. Shortly after the trip, Jaden's cancer went into remission. These last 3 are the ones I promised. Charles Barkley, loud, brash, the man who said, "I am not a role model."
I am not a role model. I'm not paid to be a role model.
In a hotel bar, a shy immigrant scientist named Lin Wang asks him for a photo, and Barkley invites him to sit. They talk for 2 hours, and it sparks a real secret friendship that runs for years. Calls, dinners, meeting his family.
Was just like, hey, we're friends, we're gonna hang out. It meant the world to me. And his family, I love his family, and I miss him because, like I said, he one of the great people I've met in my life.
When Lin is dying of cancer, he hides it so he won't be a burden, and Barkley, furious, tells him that's exactly what friends are for. Then he flies to a tiny funeral in the woods of Iowa to give the eulogy.
We talked for 3 hours, then we went to dinner and talked another 2 hours, and from that point on we became friends.
Lin's daughter asked why her dad mattered so much to him. Barkley just said he was a genius and a good man who made him happy. Alan Rickman, the cold, sneering villain everyone feared as Snape. For 10 years on the Harry Potter sets, he quietly smuggled terminally ill children in to visit. But he hated charity that made kids feel like charity, so he introduced them to the crew as his cousins or his friends. And when the kids wanted to meet the scary professor, Rickman stayed fully in character, sneering, barking at them to tuck their shirts in, giving dying children the exact magic they came for instead of pity, full Snape on purpose. Which brings us to the closer. On the set of Matilda in 1996, the 9-year-old lead, Mara Wilson, gets the worst news a kid can get. Her mother is dying of cancer. Danny DeVito and his wife, Rhea Perlman, who played Matilda's cruel parents on screen, quietly became the opposite in real life, taking Mara into their home for sleepovers, shielding her from the horror. Her mother died soon after filming, and Mara was heartbroken she'd never seen the finished movie. So years later, DeVito revealed his secret. He had rushed the edit and smuggled a nearly finished cut into the hospital room, so a dying mother could watch her daughter shine as Matilda before she was gone. He dedicated the whole film to her memory. That's the pattern under all of it. The scarier the role and the louder the reputation, the more these people seem to go out of their way to be gentle when no one was keeping score. The mob boss, the villain, the screaming chef, the bad boy. The meanest face on the screen is almost never the person behind it. So tell me, which one of these flipped a celebrity for you completely? I'll be reading the replies.